Hola a todos, yo soy el león. Rugió la bestia en medio de la avenida. Lloran los zurdos sin entender. Panic show a plena luz del día. ¡Vamos!
The Spanish government knew Milei was unpredictable. They had watched him take a chainsaw to a pinata, representing the state during his campaign. They had seen him clean his text on his dead dog through the media. But they assumed that international protocol, the basic rules of diplomatic courtesy, would continue. They assumed.
Para comenzar,
as Milei took the stage in Madrid, Pedro Sánchez was attending a climate summit in Brussels. He had bigger concerns than what some South American libertarian might say at a right-wing rally. Spain was navigating complex EU negotiations. There was a drought threatening agriculture. Catalan independence movements were stirring again. But back in Madrid, Milei was about to make himself Spain's biggest problem. Ladies and gentlemen, Milei began in Spanish. He had refused translators. I stand here in the capital of Spain to tell you a truth that your media won't say. Your government is a gangster operation. The crowd erupted in applause. Vox supporters had been waiting for someone to say this, but in the VIP section, even the party leaders looked uncomfortable.
Deriva en esclavitud o muerte. No hay otro destino posible. Abrirle la puerta al socialismo es invitar a la muerte. Pero si bien todo esto es obvio, hoy es más importante que nunca señalarlo, porque en las últimas décadas las élites globales lamentablemente han sido cautivadas por los cantos de sirenas socialistas, a través de ideas, discursos y valores que se han colado en el sentido común de nuestras sociedades, promovidos por organismos supranacionales, por ONG, por instituciones educativas y por la industria del entretenimiento y los medios de comunicación. Discursos que dicen que el capitalismo es malo porque es individualista y que el colectivismo es bueno porque es altruista y por lo tanto bregan por la justicia social, que persiguen al privado para que se someta a mandamientos de supuesta moral en cuestiones como el género, la cuestión racial o la cuestión ambiental, que muchas veces terminan atentando directamente contra la libertad y la capacidad de las empresas para generar riqueza, sino también sobre la vida humana.
A far-right organization. Sánchez had defended his wife vigorously, calling the accusations.
Parece que no entienden que la justicia social siempre es injusta, porque implica un robo, porque implica un trato desigual frente a la ley, y que cada intento de los políticos por hacerse los buenos termina perjudicando la...
From the stage mirrors the corruption of socialism itself. His wife, well, let's just say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. That was the line that changed everything. In Brussels, an aide handed Sanchez his phone. The Spanish Prime Minister's face went from confusion to rage as he read the real-time updates. Milei wasn't just criticizing his government, he was attacking his family. Within minutes, Spain's foreign minister, José Manuel Álvarez, was on the phone with his Argentine counterpart. The conversation, according to sources, lasted less than 30 seconds. Your president has crossed every line, Álvarez reportedly said. There will be consequences, but Milei wasn't done. For another 20 minutes, he continued his assault. He called Spanish socialism a cancer. He said Spain's progressive policies were destroying Western civilization. He encouraged the audience to rise up against the tyranny of the left. The international media was stunned. Presidents don't do this. You don't travel to another country to attack its democratically elected government. It violates every norm of international relations. The Financial Times called it unprecedented in modern diplomatic history. Le Monde described it as a kamikaze mission against protocol. By the time Milei finished speaking, the damage was done. But here's what makes this story even more bizarre. Milei seemed to want the controversy. As he left the stage, he told his aide, loud enough for reporters to hear, "Now they know we're serious." The Spanish government's response was swift and severe. Within hours, they recalled their ambassador from Buenos Aires for consultations. Diplomatic speak for "we're considering breaking relations." They canceled a planned economic cooperation summit. Spanish companies operating in Argentina, including telecommunications giant Telefonica and energy company Repsol, were told to reassess their exposure. This wasn't just diplomatic theater. Spain is Argentina's second-largest foreign investor, with over 15 billion euros in assets. Spanish companies employ 300,000 Argentinians. The bilateral trade relationship is worth billions annually. Milei was risking all of it. For what? A speech at a right-wing rally? The Argentine opposition couldn't believe their luck. Former President Alberto Fernandez posted, "In one afternoon, this madman has destroyed what took decades to build." Cristina Kirchner was more succinct. "He's not a president. He's a diplomatic terrorist." But then, something unexpected happened. Milei's approval ratings in Argentina went up, not dramatically, but measurably. Among his base, the confrontation with Spain was seen as proof that their president wouldn't bow to anyone. Finally, one supporter told Clarín
Y en
newspaper,
consonancia, la respuesta
"We
del
have a
gobierno
leader
de España
who
será
says what he
acorde
thinks."
a la dignidad que
The
representa la
business
democracia
community,
española
however,
y a
was
los lazos de
horrified.
hermandad
The
que unen
CEO
a
of one
España y
major
Argentina,
Argentine export company,
ahora mismo
speaking
presididos
anonymously,
por un
said,
presidente
"This
que
is
por
insanity. We're trying to negotiate trade deals, and he's burning bridges for applause lines." 3 days after the Madrid speech, Sanchez made his move. At a Socialist Party event in Barcelona, he delivered his response. But instead of matching Milei's inflammatory rhetoric, Sanchez took a different approach. He spoke more in sorrow than anger. "The Argentine people," Sanchez said, "deserve better than a president who prioritizes ideological provocations over their well-being. Spain will always be a friend to Argentina, even when its current leader chooses to be our enemy." It was a masterful response. Sanchez separated Milei from Argentina itself, portraying him as an aberration rather than a representative. The Spanish Prime Minister came across as the adult in the room, but Milei couldn't let it go. That same evening, he posted on X, "The gangster is upset that someone finally told the truth. Spain's socialist government is a threat to freedom everywhere. I regret nothing." The European Union began to take notice. While the EU has no formal role in bilateral disputes between member and non-member states, several European leaders privately expressed concern. French President Emmanuel Macron reportedly called Milei's behavior incompatible with international order. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz was blunter. "This is what happens when you elect clowns." Yet within Argentina, something strange was happening. The very recklessness that horrified the international community seemed to energize Milei's supporters. They saw him as a warrior against global socialism, unafraid to confront anyone, anywhere. At a rally in Córdoba, Milei addressed the controversy directly. "They want me to apologize for telling the truth. They want me to bow to socialist corruption? Never. I would rather Argentina stand alone and free than kneel with a globalist herd. The crowd went wild. Milei, 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 they chanted. Meanwhile, in corporate boardrooms in Buenos Aires, executives were calculating the damage. One study estimated that the diplomatic crisis could cost Argentina up to $2 billion in lost investment and trade. The peso weakened. Bond prices fell. The country risk index spiked. Santiago Cafiero, Argentina's former foreign minister, called it the most expensive speech in Argentine history. But here's the twist that most analysts missed. Milei might have been playing a longer game. By attacking European socialism so dramatically, he was signaling to other potential partners, particularly in the American right, that he was their man in South America. Indeed, within days of the Madrid incident, several prominent U.S. conservatives praised Milei. Tucker Carlson called him the bravest leader in the world. Elon Musk tweeted a fire emoji in response to Milei's speech. Donald Trump Jr. posted, "This is what we need more of, leaders who call out socialist corruption wherever it exists." The Spanish government, meanwhile, found itself in a difficult position. They couldn't ignore the insults, but escalating further would only give Milei more attention. They chose a middle path, maintaining formal relations, but freezing all non-essential cooperation. Spanish companies began quietly exploring exit strategies from Argentina. Cultural exchanges were canceled. Technical cooperation programs were suspended. The centuries-old relationship between the two nations entered its coldest period since the Falklands War, when Spain had sided with Argentina against Britain. 2 months after the Madrid incident, at the G20 summit in Brazil, Sanchez and Milei found themselves in the same room. The other world leaders watched nervously as they approached each other. Would there be a confrontation? A reconciliation? Neither. They simply didn't acknowledge each other's existence. Two leaders of nations, bound by history, language, and millions of citizens with family on both sides of the Atlantic, pretended the other wasn't there. The photo that captured this moment, Sanchez looking one way, Milei the other, with barely 2 feet between them, became instantly iconic. The Guardian called it the photo that captures our fractured world. Today, relations between Argentina and Spain remain frozen. Trade continues, but at reduced levels. Investment has slowed to a trickle. The human cost, families separated, students unable to pursue exchanges, businesses paralyzed by uncertainty, is real but hard to quantify.
Deriva en esclavitud o muerte. No hay otro destino posible. Abrirle la puerta al socialismo es invitar a la muerte.
He smiled that unsettling smile of his and said, "I know where to find me, but they'll have to admit I was right about everything first."
Pero si bien todo esto es obvio, hoy es más importante que nunca señalarlo, porque en las últimas décadas las élites globales lamentablemente han sido cautivadas por los cantos de sirenas socialistas, a través de ideas, discursos y valores que se han colado en el sentido común de nuestras sociedades, promovidos por organismos supranacionales, por ONG, por instituciones educativas y por la industria del entretenimiento y los medios de comunicación. Discursos que dicen que el capitalismo es malo porque es individualista y que el colectivismo es bueno porque es altruista y por lo tanto bregan por la justicia social, que persiguen al privado para que se someta a mandamientos de supuesta moral en cuestiones como el género, la cuestión racial o la cuestión ambiental, que muchas veces terminan atentando directamente contra la libertad y la capacidad de las empresas para generar riqueza, sino también sobre la vida humana.
After that afternoon in Madrid, and the president decided that being right was more important than being diplomatic.
Parece que no entienden que la justicia social siempre es injusta, porque implica un robo, porque implica un trato desigual frente a la ley, y que cada intento de los políticos por hacerse los buenos termina perjudicando la